Hello, I'm the Culture Genie. And you are listening to this episode of You Fail at Thinking, where I discuss logical fallacies and other sorts of mistakes and misunderstandings when dealing with logic and philosophy. Today we are going to discuss Argumentum ad Hominem, that is to say, the argument about someone's character, about the person. Argumentum ad hominem is the fallacy of arguing against someone's character, motive, or some other attribute of the person making an argument, rather than attacking the argument itself. A logical argument does not change because of the character of the one arguing for it or against it. 1 + 1 is still equal to 2, even if I am something different than what I am when I argue this. The entire fallacious argument can be reduced to you are X, thus your argument or opinion is invalid, where X can be filled with anything. Smear words and verbal insults against the arguer are the most basic variety of this. Of course, there exists often more refined descriptions, but they are just as fallacious. Many in my audience, as I am sure, have heard descriptions like these before. Fascist, communist, socialist, far whatever, Islamist, extremist, being uttered, and other descriptions being ascribed to various arguers in various debates, as a way to discredit the opposition. But it is still a fallacious argument. But unfortunately, it is a pretty common tactic that is used pretty much everywhere. عندما تسمي الخصم ملحدا أو كافرا أو رافضيا أو خوارجا وإلى آخره بدل مواجهة الحجج هو مغالطة منطقية. It doesn't make a difference when it's in the West or in the Arabic world. It is still fallacious, though other types of descriptions and terms are used, obviously, but they are still as fallacious. There is a more subtle variant of this that I've seen a lot of people not really pick up on, and that is when one argues that an argument is wrong because of hypocrisy of the arguer. This even has a name, Argumentum ad hominem tu quoque. In other words, the argument about the person, you too. This is a subset of the arguments about character and persons and deals with accusing someone of doing something that they themselves claim is wrong. Just because the arguer is an hypocrite or does something wrong with regards to the argument does not mean that the argument itself is unsound. Someone can argue that alcohol is bad for you and that you should not drink, despite drinking himself. It still doesn't change the fact that alcohol can be very destructive to your body and your social habits. We have discussed attacks upon a character or about a person, but also arguments for someone's good character regarding an argument is fallacious if it has no connection to the argument. For example, I'm right against your argument because I'm X, or he is right because he is X in the argument. It's not a valid logic. Fill X with good, smart, pious, or whatever good attribute you can find that has no connection to the argument in itself. A subset of this is arguments from authority, Argumentum ab auctoritate, which I will discuss in a later video. It is important to notice, however, that when an argument about someone's personality or character is actually relevant, and it's not a fallacy. Not all arguments about the person are wrong in a logical sense. For example, someone claims that he should judge, and you offer two propositions. The first one being that judges should not judge if they are biased. The second is that he is biased. Conclusion: he should not be judged. As you can see, the second proposition is about the character But it is relevant in this case because his character is connected to the argument. The important thing is that there needs to be a connection between one's character and the argued subject in such a way that it actually has an impact upon the logic in the argument. Put even more simply, the subject must be connected to the person in question in order to make ad hominem arguments not fallacious. You could, for example, argue that a politician should not hold office if he has a history of being corrupt and so on, because the person is connected to holding office, and thus it is about the person as a subject. However, it's still important to note that just because a corrupt politician argues for something, it does not mean that it is false in itself. For example, he could argue for some kind of sound policy, but then it's about the policy and not about his person if the argument is sound or not, as the argument is actually disconnected from the person in a logical sense. I will stress this, the important part is that there must exist a logically legitimate connection between one's character and the subject of the argument. Another case of when something is not a fallacy according to ad hominem is when a comment is added about one's character to something but it is not part of an argument. Then it's either just an insult or flattery. Thus it's unrelated, so you can't just say, oh, it's an ad hominem, if he has actually refuted your point with sound logic before. Then it's not ad hominem, it's just an insult or flattery, as it is not an argument, so it's not an argumentative fallacy. It can still be bad, but it's not just a fallacy logically, as it's not an argument. Hello dear listeners and viewers. Hopefully this video has been informative about the logical fallacy of Argumentum ad hominem. Please leave comments if you would like and touch the like button if you think I did a good job. And hopefully we will see each other again. Please do subscribe as it would help the channel spread awareness about the humanities. اشترك بالقناة من فضلكم.